I see a lot of friends in the audience, and I appreciate that very much. People coming to see me talk, and a lot of new friends. I know it takes a lot of time, money, and effort to come to these events, and I don't take that lightly, and I appreciate, and I'm honored to speak with you today. So Google's algorithm is an algorithm, all right? My name is Kyle Roof. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I have a bachelor's in psychology. I have a Juris Doctorate. That's just a fancy way to say I'm a lawyer. I practiced law for 4 years as a trial attorney. I was in court every day. I did divorce, custody, and support, and I did criminal defense. I got to the point where I decided I'd rather chew on shards of broken glass than do another divorce. So I took a year off, and then the short version is I lived in a mountainside village in Korea for 5 years. I got my brother thrown in jail in India, and now I'm an SEO expert. I have my agency that I co-founded with my business partner, Andrew Stephen, High Voltage SEO. We have an office in Phoenix. We have an office in Berlin and an office in Melbourne. I have 13 employees. I have over 60 clients. I do local SEO to national, to international, to everything in between. I am the lead tester for SIA, as Dory was talking about. In the last 3 years, I've published over 250 tests on Google's algorithm, and I'm fairly certain no one in the world has done that. I've also recently released a tool, Page Optimizer Pro. So between the tool, the agency, and SIA, I do SEO all day, every day. And I'd like to tell you a little story about a guy named Thales. Thales was doing his thing around 600 BC. For perspective, that's about 120 years before Socrates. He's known as one of the 7 scribes. The 7 scribes lived before Socrates, and they advanced math, science, and philosophy before it was organized. He lived in a small town, and he was constantly battling the mystics. The mystics would go up into the mountains, they would divine the will of the gods, and they'd come back down and tell the townspeople what the gods were thinking, and that's how the townspeople then conducted their daily and personal and business lives. And it drove Thales nuts, and he's like, that's not how it works. You can do other things. You can use observation. And he would get in all these arguments, and in one particular argument, a townsperson was like, you know, Thales, if you're so smart and you don't need the gods, why aren't you the richest guy in town? And Thales said, touche, townsperson, I should be the richest guy in town. So the town was actually in economic hardship. They were completely dependent upon the olive crop, and for the previous 2 years, they had little to no rain. Little to no rain meant little to no olives, and the farmers would lose money, and if the farmers lost money, the town lost money. So at the beginning of the season, the mystics go up to the mountains, they divine the will of the gods, they come down, they say, townspeople, bad news. The gods are still angry at us, we're gonna have another year of little to no rain. And Thales goes, hold the phone. And he goes back to the office and he takes out his notebook, and he had been tracking the weather for the last 15 years. And he saw a pattern. And he saw that after 2 years of little to no rain, the 3rd year was very heavy rain and huge olive crop. So he goes to a farmer friend of his, and the guy's freaking out. He's like, Thales, I don't know what I'm gonna do, man. I'm gonna lose money. The reason that he would lose money is because of the olive presses. The olive presses were very expensive to build and operate and maintain, so the farmers had this huge fixed cost. And the farmer's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my press. And Thales is like, man, I think it's gonna be a lot of rain, you're gonna be good. And he's like, no, the mystics say there's gonna be no rain. So Thales goes, I'll tell you what, how about I buy your olive press from you? And this is a good deal for the farmer. It mitigates his risk, and the farmer's like, you're an idiot, sold. So Thales buys the press. Thales then goes to all the farmers in town and buys every single olive press. So the season starts, sure enough, heavy rain, huge crop, they've got all the olives. Now the farmers have to go to Thales. What Thales does is he leases their presses back to them, and he makes a fortune. He does this for the next couple years, and then when he sees that the rain is gonna normalize, he sells the presses back to the farmers, makes a huger fortune. He becomes the world's first billionaire, and he lives the first Mediterranean yacht life. I love these ancient drawings where you can see what life was like with their ancient yachts and their ancient bikinis. So what did Thales do? So Thales, he had a simple yet unique idea. Tracking the weather isn't an earth-shattering concept. And I'm sure some other people were doing it, but it was fairly unique in that he was doing it, and clearly nobody else in town was really paying attention. But he also applied it in a profound way. So he took a very simple idea, I'll just track the weather, and he applied it in a profound way. If you study scientists throughout history, mathematicians, philosophers, this is actually a trend. They often take a very simple concept and they apply it in a very profound way. Socrates said, "I don't know what I don't know." And that's an extremely simple idea. Of course you don't know what you don't know. But he took that and said, well, I can ask questions and I can learn. I can also teach people by asking questions and finding out how much they know. And he turns that very simple idea and it turns into the Socratic method. And that's a teaching method that's still used today in American law schools. Socrates teaches Plato. And Plato says there's a right and a wrong even in opinion. Of course. Just because two people disagree about something doesn't mean that there is no right or a wrong. But he takes that very simple idea and he turns it into universities and schools of thought. Plato teaches Aristotle. And Aristotle says you should be able to observe something and describe it. Well, of course. But he takes that and he observes a plant and then he predicts how that plant will grow the next year. And that turns into scientific method and scientific research. Fast forward about 1800 years and you have Descartes. Descartes said you need a rational reason to believe something. He said you can't believe something because somebody tells it to you or you feel it. He was a very devout man and he believed in God, but he said you can't believe in God because you feel God is real. So he came up with rational reasons for why God exists. He came up with rational reasons why he exists. He said, I doubt, therefore I am. But he takes this very simple idea and it turns into modern Western philosophy. Fast forward a couple hundred years and you have Newton. And he said this rock won't move unless something happens to it, which is perhaps the most simple idea ever. But he profoundly applies that and we get gravity, the laws of motion, and calculus. A little bit later, Edmund Halley said, if you can observe an event, you can do math and predict when it'll happen again. And we do that every day. That's not anything that's new to us. Then it was a pretty unique idea, and he takes it and he predicts the return of Halley's Comet. Fun fact about that, he never saw Halley's Comet. He was born too late. He did the math. He hits the nail on the head. The comet returns, but it's 14 years after his death. Fast forward about 100 years, and you have Marconi. And Marconi said, if somebody tells you something, you should test it. Well, of course, that's what we're doing. But he takes this idea. People said radio waves only go this far. And he said, shouldn't we test that? And everyone was like, nah. And he's like, well, I'll test it. He turns into the father of radio. He wins a Nobel Prize in physics. He knows nothing about physics. He has a law called Marconi's Law. And he made a ton of money doing it, too. Fast forward about another 100 years, and you're sitting in a conference room with a guy named Kyle Roof, who says, Google's algorithm is an algorithm. Yeah. It's a very simple idea, but if Google's algorithm is an algorithm, that means you can beat it with math. All right? And if you can beat it with math, we can observe it. That's Aristotle. We can test it. That's Marconi. It's rational. That's Descartes. We can make theories about it. That's Newton. We can predict what will happen. That's Halley. It doesn't have to be opinion. That's Plato. We can learn by asking questions. That's Socrates. We don't need the SEO mystics. That's Thales. So Google's algorithm is one of the most complex things of all time. But what's really encouraging is that it's already been defeated by dudes that lived hundreds to thousands of years before it ever existed. Google's algorithm is an algorithm. That means we can beat it with math. And if we do the math the right way, what seems so complex is really just a simple idea. You just have to apply it profoundly. So the competition. So some people know about this. Maybe some of you don't. This was this summer in SEO Signals Lab, which is a Facebook group. It's a really good group. They did a competition for rhinoplasty plano. It was a 30-day competition, fresh domain. The rules were you couldn't spend more than $1,000. The site at the end wins, and 27 professionals entered. So this is a real term. Rhinoplasty is a nose job. Plano is right outside of Texas, and it's a very rich, posh neighborhood. So there were plastic surgeons that are there. I thought, Kyle, you're pretty good at this SEO thing. Maybe we should get in the competition. And by the way, when I say I have a very talented team behind me in my agency, so I entered us, we did it. But it's easier for me to say I. So I entered this. We got in and did the site, and I took 5th. So that's me right there, rhinoplastyplano.co. So that's fine. It was a 30-day competition, fresh domain. You can see that nobody did really great. The guy that won the competition is sitting on page 9. I'm on page 10. And that's fine. But 2 weeks later, I hit #1 in maps and 7th organic. And people really kind of started to lose their minds. Like, really, in the group, it started to blow up. Then I went to #1 organic, #1 maps, and then for a little bit, people really, oh, and this was verified by SEO Signals Lab, that I hit #7, and you can see that nobody else was really doing that great. The guy that actually won was sitting on page 8, so it wasn't like everybody moved up. I started boat racing the competition. Then I wiped out the maps and I became the knowledge panel. And people really lost their shit at this point. I did the search. The maps are back, and I'm still #1 in maps, but if you do outside the US, I'm still the knowledge panel. But you might be thinking like, okay, so you built a good site, good job, Kyle. Who cares? But why people were really losing their minds is that, as Dory alluded to, I built the entire site in Lorem Ipsum. And people just couldn't wrap their brains around it. But Google's algorithm is an algorithm. It's math. So while it's Lorem Ipsum, what I did is I figured out how many times I need my exact keyword, how many times I need variations, how many times I need LSI, and then I just crassly copied and pasted them into the Lorem Ipsum. You can see Lorem Ipsum, real word. Lorem Ipsum, real word. You know, and just put it in. But I put it in the right number of times. I gave the algorithm what it wants to see. This was verified by SEO Signals Lab. Stephen Kong, who runs it, said, here's what the data tells me. Out of 27 contestants, only 9 are on the radar. Think about that for a second. 27 pros who know what they're doing and are confident enough to do a public competition, only 9 actually got on the radar. Tells you, like, should give you an idea of keyword difficulty. Only 9 are on the radar. Out of 9, Kyle is the latest winner with #1 on the maps, and at this time #7 organic. He is winning with Latin copy, which is amazing. Here's my conclusion. You can't beat an SEO who is always testing. Forget theories and speculation. Data-driven SEO wins. And I truly believe that. So if it's all right with you, let's learn how to do this. Is that all right? Yeah. That's good because I have no other slides. Yeah, so I just got outed. Search Engine Journal just dropped the dime on me, so we'll see what happens with it. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. The thing, if you read it, the thing that I didn't do it to stick it to Google. You know, I did it to stick it to SEOs. You know, to prove the point that a lot of people have the idea that Google is this omniscient, omnipresent, just God, and then you write this amazing content and God will reward you, and that's the SEO mystics. That's going up into the mountains and divining the will of Google and bringing it to your website, and that's not what it is at all. You know, it's an algorithm. You know, you have to beat it with math. Excuse me. So, the roadmap. Picking competitors is the key. Something that's really amazing to me, when you take SEO courses or you go to workshops or you go to these events, no one really talks about picking competitors, and I think it's actually the #1 SEO skill. If you can pick out who your competitors are, you can get a roadmap to rank, and that's both in your on-page and your off-page. So many people never look at who their competitors are, and the concept here is that the secret is hiding in plain sight. Google is showing you what it's rewarding. The algorithm can't hide anything. You know, it's an algorithm, so it's going to show you the sites that it's rewarding, and those are the sites that are winning your term. We can then use those sites that are winning to create a roadmap for your own ranking and for your own success. A quick look at your competitors. Many people never look at the SERPs. They grab their keyword, they grab their site, they throw it into Ahrefs or Majestic or Moz, and they actually never look at the sites that are winning their term. What type of pages are winning for the term you want to rank? You know, what is actually there? Are they directory sites? Are they long-form articles? Are they home pages? Are they internal pages? A lot of people never consider that. What's on the pages? You know, is it lists? Is it tables? Is it videos? How many images? Those things, a lot of people just simply blow by. They put up a page and then they're like, oh, I don't know why I'm not ranking. Well, what's your competition doing? What does Google want to see? So for this competition, the first thing I did was I did the search, and what I could see is that Google is rewarding internal pages. You know, home pages aren't ranking. So I realized at this point, if I try to rank my home page, I'm going to be at a disadvantage. I need to rank an internal page for this term. And I can also see that some schema is popping out. And what's interesting is even though this is a service, it's product schema. Its product-based schema is popping out these stars. So now I know, just looking at my competitors, I know I need an internal page and I need some schema. I then looked to Quora, Ted's absolutely amazing software, for some more insights as I'm building out this page. And what Quora told me is that on-page is the key. Now that's just this particular keyword, but the on-page factors were pinging very high, which is really a good thing because it's a short-term competition, and so I got pretty lucky on that. So I know I need to focus on my on-page. Schema pinged as a factor, and then something else that was really cool in Quora is that don't use a .com. Now that's not across the board, that's just in this particular situation. So I got the .co, I put schema on my page, and I did an internal page. So right there, I think I'm already ahead of the game. You know, I'm already giving a page that has the best chance at ranking because that's what Google is looking for. That's what Google wants to see. So now we'll pick our actual competitors, and this is in an on-page sense. You want to think of it from the point of view of eliminating sites, eliminating competitors. Some sites aren't winning because of their on-page, like Yelp and YouTube and Facebook and kind of, so those are sites you don't want to consider. You want to remove thin pages, and this is just opening up. I get surprised a lot of times talking to some SEOs that they actually never even open up the competitors. They might look at the SERPs, but they actually never click and open up and see what's on those pages. Remove thin pages, that people that clearly aren't winning because of their on-page. You want to think about a one-to-one comparison. If you are a long-form article type site, that's what you want to look to compare against. Those sites that are winning that are that form. So you would want to, that's going to eliminate a lot of directories. Or a single product page. If you're a long form, you wouldn't want to compare against a single product, or vice versa. If you're a product, you wouldn't want to compare against long form for your roadmap. You want to remove pretty much any and all directories. If you're in the law space, you know, you've got your Justia and your FindLaw and those types of sites. Those probably aren't going to help you in your roadmap because you're probably a law firm. A real pro tip, this is a little hard to see and I apologize, but this is Divorce Attorney Phoenix. And so the sites that come up, Justia, Yelp, FindLaw, that's a real site. Thumbtack, another directory. If you do the search in quotes, it actually then will remove a lot of external factors, and it'll pull up the sites, and these are all real sites. So if I'm doing my on-page, I'm probably going to grab this real one right here, and then I'm probably going to pick from a lot of these in order to create my on-page roadmap because they're doing it well. So the quote search takes away a lot of those external signals. They're going to create noise when you're creating your on-page roadmap. All right, create your list of competitors. Does anybody actually keep a list of their competitors that they're doing? Like, do you actually have a list that you can refer to? 5 to 7 is probably a good number. Maybe 10 if you're not if you're just starting off. So you get a nice range of possible optimization. I get asked all the time, should I only go with sites that are above me in rank? And hopefully now you get the idea. The answer is no. You know, there are probably sites below you. Let's see if you're on page 1. There could be sites on page 2. They're doing really great on page. You just have better external signals or other signals, but they could be good to add into the mix to look at your on-page roadmap. All right, on page. So these are the top places that you can put a keyword. If you've seen me speak, I've talked about this before, so I won't go into a lot of detail. And I'll also share all my slides too. I tell people, if you just need to rank, like now, I'd call it like the rough and dirty approach. Just get your keyword in these 4. And for most long tail things, you're going to do pretty well. The other things then are kind of broken down by importance, but these are the factors that we're focusing on. These are the things that Google really cares about. There are obviously more factors than this, but when you're looking at an on-page sense, this is kind of what matters the most. There are 2 parts of what matters though. The structure of the page. When you're building out the page, how many H tags should you have? How many H3s? Is that something that you've considered? Is that something you're thinking about? How many images should you have and why? Do you need a video? Do you need tables? How many forms should you have on the page? How many words should you have on the page? And then what we put in the structure, that's typically what we think of as optimization, and that's often where people just start by kind of missing this first section. But what we put in is the optimization, and that's how many times we use our exact keyword, our variations, and our LSI kind of in these structural places. So this is page structure, and this is from my tool, is where the screenshot comes from. But the idea is that, you know, I'm looking at, do I need a video? You know, how many lists should I have? How many images? So when you look at the rhinoplasty Plano page, there's 7 images on that page, and that's intentional. I think there's one form. I think there are 3 lists. 2 are unorganized, 1 is organized. That's all very intentional because that's what I'm pulling out from the competitors and what they're doing. You then take that and you start to outline your page. You hear a lot of people talk about I don't want SEO copy, or SEO copy can't be good copy, and I think often that happens because people don't outline. If you remember from high school or college, if you sat down to write an essay and you didn't take the time to outline it, you wrote a shit essay, like it was garbage. But if you took the time to outline it, you wrote a much better essay. It's the same thing too when you're doing SEO. Start to outline your pages. So we know those structure things. We know how many images, maybe how many tables we're going to put on. You can then start to outline that. Also, how many H2s. You can see I've got my H2s here, and I'm putting them down. A real pro tip: get your H2s from your related searches. If you properly optimize for a top-level phrase, you will win the secondary phrases. And the place to see those secondary phrases on what you can win is here in the related searches. Do your search, scroll to the bottom. These can be your H2s. So I knew how many H2s I could have on the page. This is where I'm going to grab them from. Now, there was a second part of the competition that I didn't participate in. And it was for rhinoplasty cost in Plano, Texas. I didn't participate, but I'm sitting on page 2. And that term doesn't exist on the page. But I properly optimized for rhinoplasty Plano, and if we go back, look at the #1 related search. So I properly optimized for rhinoplasty Plano, and I'm winning this term, and it's not on the page in that form. I bet if I made it an H2, it would ping on page 1. So when you're looking at, a lot of clients will be like, I want to rank for all of these terms or these separate pages. Maybe, maybe not. If you check here and check in Google Trends, you can see what can cluster. So if you properly optimize for that primary keyword, you can then win these secondaries. And the most important ones, put those as your H tags. Other on-page pro tips: semantic order is extremely important. I don't know how many times I open up a potential client page and they've got like 5 H2s at the top for some reason. Keep your semantic order. So your H1, H2, H3, cycle it just like you would cycle a Roman numeral outline. That's what your structure should look like. Google doesn't care about unique images. So for the competition, what I did was I went into an advanced search, royalty-free commercial use images, and I searched rhinoplasty Plano. The first 7 images that came up are the ones that are on my page. Google already knows what those images are, so you're giving yourself a fast track. You don't need to teach Google what a new image is. Google already knows, hey, this image is rhinoplasty Plano, so that's what went on the page. You can do this in all of your pages to really give yourself a boost and potentially quick ranking. Don't train Google. Somebody's already trained Google on these images. Grab the free ones and put them on your page. Having way more H tags than your competitor can harm your rank. So this happens in your H1s, H2s, and H3s. If your competitor average is, say, 3 H2s and you have 20 because you have a template that is pumping out H2s in the sidebar, you're probably harming your page. The heuristic that you should only have 1 H1 on a page? Do you know why that is? It's not because there's some rule that you should only have 1 H1. It's because all of your competitors probably only have 1 H1. So if you come in with 4, you're way over optimized just in that structural area and you're harming your page. Give Google the page it's expecting to see. In law, we have the expression, don't reinvent the wheel. Google is showing you what it wants to see. That's the page you should be giving to Google, and if you properly outline at the beginning, especially from the structural sense, that's the page that you will give them. So then you start to fill out, word count. I needed about 1,200, so all I did in this case is I went to a Lorem Ipsum generator and I got that many words, and then you can see it kind of goes a little bit over with other stuff on the page. So I'm in the ballpark. You really want to be, if you're starting out, about 10% plus or minus of that number is a really good number to go with. Now, how many words should I have on the page? Look at your competitors, see what they're doing, and that's what you should go for. Then I'm looking at my exact match placement. So that's rhinoplasty Plano. What you'll find a lot of times with exact match is you don't need to use it as many times as you think you do. You want to pull out individual signals and then run it. So like in my H2s and H3s, while I'm using that for those related searches, I don't have to put my exact match in there, or in the H4s. Only 2 times in the paragraph text. That's not a lot of usage. A lot of people overuse or over-optimize, if you will, with their exact keyword, but then they miss the variations. So variations, these are critically related terms to your target phrase. They're not necessarily things you want to rank for, but they're often, if you have a longer phrase, it's probably the words individually, maybe close synonyms, stemming, singular, plural, those are variations. That's often what you need to focus on. You can see, maybe you can't see, but these numbers are a lot higher for actually getting them the variations into my H2s and H3s. So using the related searches will hit those numbers. Variations in the last 2 years, I think, is actually one of the most important SEO discoveries or SEO advancements, and actually comes from Ted. He identified it. The variations are bold terms in the SERPs. So Google is showing you the terms that are actually critically important to your target keyword. And they're these bolded terms. And what Google is doing here is it's telling the person that's doing the search, hey, look how relevant this result is. I've got all of these words here on these pages. So Google's saying these are really critically important to the search phrase that you put in. Look how good these results are. But then it's also showing us how to rank.
And they're probably going to unbold those after they see your presentation.
That's fine. Ted and I are actually already... Yeah, mobile, they've taken them away. But Ted and I are actually already ahead of that. We already know how to do them. So fear not. Yeah. It's kind of funny. So Ted and I guess, are technically competitors in the space a little bit. But Ted and I are great friends, and we talk every day and share all kinds of ideas. And that's why I think our SEO advances, is simply because we keep it open. And that's what this whole thing is about. There's no reason to hold anything back. When you meet people at this conference, share your ideas. Tell people what you're into. Tell people what you're deficient in. I really suck at whatever. Somebody in this room is really good at it, and they'd like to share with you. That's what's great about this kind of conference, and what's great about the sharing that Ted and I do, even though we're fighting for competitors or fighting for users, this kind of stuff advances us. This is our SEO. Again, using Quora, Ted's tool, he has a fantastic LSI tool. And I really strongly recommend using it. It actually shows you what LSI terms correlate to rank, which is pretty awesome. I bounce it off of another tool called nTopic, N as in Nancy, ntopic.org. I use the two tools together and then pull out the ones from nTopic and then the top ones from Ted's tool. Real quick definition on LSI, and if you want to flame or fight me about it later, we can. A lot of people misidentify LSI. LSI isn't synonyms of your term. The example that I always give is if you're talking about a kitchen, LSI are other words that come up in that conversation about kitchens that give it meaning and context. So LSI would be sink, stove, refrigerator, pantry, backsplash, tile, granite. Those aren't synonyms for kitchen, but those are other words that come up in a conversation about kitchens that gives meaning to what we're actually talking about. Are we talking about refurbishing a kitchen? Are we talking about cooking? Are we talking about buying a new home? Those are all different words that would come up in a conversation. That's what LSI is. A very hot topic right now is word devec, if that means anything to you. Some people are throwing that out. That's really it's the same thing. Latent semantic indexing, latent means other, semantics means meaning. So other words that give meaning to your conversation, that's what LSI is. We've tested LSI in SIA, and it's a ranking factor. So start filling in the outline. For me, this was super simple because I'm just taking Lorem Ipsum, and I'm literally copying and pasting into the Lorem Ipsum. But if you've got a good structure at this point, and you've got the LSI terms, and you've got your H2s that are those related searches, you should write a good page. You know how many images should be on there, maybe a video, you can talk about those things. You've looked at your competitors and see what they've got on their pages. You can now start to write an excellent page, not only giving Google what it wants, but giving users what they want, because the users they're doing this search too. They're looking for particular pages. If they're in the law space, they are doing those searches. They're looking for specific pages, and if you give them the page that they're looking for, you have a higher chance of converting as well. So I published a page, and I just used WordPress, and this was just out of the box WordPress too, nothing fancy with it. There's my friend on the image search. And when I first ran it, and this is in my tool, so 57%, and then took it up to a 92%. There's going to be things that you can't do. People stress about this a lot. SEO there's a margin, so you kind of want to get in within that zone. If I needed to, there are things I could still kind of get to, but don't stress about the numbers. The numbers themselves aren't the most important thing. Rank is the most important thing, but hitting that zone is what you really want to get into. Remember, schema pinged, so I got local business schema on and product schema. A very important point. I'm trying to rank that internal page. Why would I put schema on a different page? People do that all the time. whatever your target page is, that should be the page that's getting the most attention. This is the page, and then I put my local business schema and my product schema, and I put it on the page I'm trying to rank. The silo. So I call this a reverse silo strategy. So this is my target page, and in this case it's rhinoplasty plano, and I'm putting rhinoplasty plano there, and then like the cost of rhinoplasty or those other related terms, they're going physically on this page. These are my supporting articles. These arrows, these are links. So you can see that what I try to do is link from the target page into one supporting article, and that can be a blog post or a page, it doesn't matter. They all link to each other, and they all link back to my target page. And you can see the topics here: who performs rhinoplasty, how much does it cost, how long is the recovery time. Those come from Answer the Public, high industry forums, and People Also Ask. So if you're doing those types of, if you're looking in those areas, you can find content that's higher in the funnel content, but it's things that people are actually looking for. It can create good traffic. There's also one other point. I'm selling something on this page. If I ask somebody to link to a target page where I'm selling something, a product or a service, they're going to tell you to pound sand. If you really get a link to that page, you bought it. You know, it's not natural to get links to pages where you're selling something, but what is very natural is getting links to high value supporting content. So if you get a link here, or if you write good content here, people will link to that, even though you're on a site that's selling something. So you can drive link juice through. There are other reasons to do this as well if you really get into link building, but this silo structure, then it's passing the juice kind of between these things and passing up to your target page. Notice none of the supporting articles would link to another target page. The idea is that the link, and I put it at the top of the page in the first paragraph, using the exact match anchor text in this situation, goes right to the target page and nowhere else. So this is on the target page, how long is rhinoplasty recovery time, and then that's all I use then for the supporting title. So it's in the H1 and the meta title, and that's it, and then I just used 500 words of Lorem Ipsum, and then I linked rhinoplasty plano in the first paragraph. But pretty good structure to do. Like when you're looking at the supporting pages that you want to build out for your sites in real life, this is the right way to do it. Off-page and maps. So I did a Google My Business. To get the address, I contacted a co-working space. I paid them $50. They gave me the address. They sent the card. I got the code and verified the GMB. And it was within Plano too. So I got a Plano address. I got a unique phone number, and I just used Google Voice for that. That's free. I got an area code that was Plano. I filled in the primary category and secondary categories. In my practice, it's amazing to me how many people miss secondary categories in their GMB. You don't need to put in just one thing. There are probably 3, 4, 5, maybe even more secondary categories that you can fill in. Fill in all the details, including hours, that you're open. A lot of people just leave this stuff blank. Jordan is a GMB pro, and if you have GMB questions, I'd recommend talking to him. He'll tell you the same thing. Fill it all in. So I got some reviews, and I did them through fake Gmails that I have, and Google removed them. But it didn't seem to harm anything. At first I was like, oh man, I think I just fucked myself. But it didn't matter. And what's that? No, nothing. I did the Google Plus, RIP Google Plus. You probably heard about a month ago that Google's killing this off. So I got some posts up on there. Use the same Gmail. So something's going to replace Google Plus. Something will take its place. You want to use the same Gmail that you're using across all these things, so you don't let Google guess what you're doing. I put rel publisher on the page. I'm still telling my clients to do this. Google Plus is dying, but I would still do it because I still think you do get some value out of it. And then I synced with a verified YouTube. This is Google About Me. Do you check this with your clients? You might want to. So you log in with their Gmail, and Google's going to show you the related properties. So Google will show you, like, hey, I understand that all these things are connected. And you may not know this, but did you know that you can verify a domain in YouTube? So go into the legacy version. They've got this new version. Go into the old Creator Studio, click Advanced, and then you can verify your domain within your YouTube property. And you get something that looks like this. So Google understands that this YouTube channel is associated with that property. So what you've done is you've verified the business physically, and then you verified the business with the domain in YouTube. In case you're missing the point, I downloaded this schematic from the dark web. So verified GMB postcard, verified domain. those both linked into Google Plus, which gave me and then my rel publisher. So this part's going away, but something will replace it. An idea that I got from Jordan is that you get an entity number, and maybe doing that as like same as in your schema might be the way to do it. But the idea is that, see, it's two different forms of verification leading to the same property. I think it's a massive trust signal, and I'm pretty sure in the competition nobody did this. Hence, #1 in the maps. I got a Yelp, and I optimized it, and I did the same data, and then some guys reported me. My phone rang one time, so I've got the Google Voice number, and then all of a sudden my computer starts ringing one day, and I was like, hello? And yeah, and it was, yeah, and it was like, how can I help you? But it was like, hi, I'm Kate from Yelp, and I was like, hi, Kate from Yelp, and she's like, I'm your account rep, and she goes, I was just looking at your site, and I see that you've got something up, but are you targeting a foreign language audience? And I was like, absolutely I am, Kate. And she's like, that's good. She's like, we have to combat spam all the time, so I wanted to reach out, but, you know. I was like, oh, I really appreciate you reaching out. Yeah, we're just getting started in Plano. We're super excited about the business. And, and she goes, well, I'm your ad manager as well, so if you want to set up a time to meet. And I was like, let's set up a time next week, Kate. You know, give me a call back. So we got reported there. So all this, the main point on this though is that this information is exactly the same as the GMB. Why would you put different information? And also that internal page is my target page, so that's the link that I'm putting in here. Same with the GMB. I did a round of citations and I did 30. Again, the secret is hiding in plain sight. So I didn't just randomly do 30 citations. I didn't let Bright Local just pick them for me. I did competitor analysis, and I found the top industry shared citations. So the top competitors had the same, say 5 or 6, I got those. And then I went through and went with the highest quality ones that I could get. A lot of people just kind of throw it in, they're like, well, I did citations and nothing happened. Did you take the time to do a citation audit? And did you look at what the competitors are doing was actually moving the needle for them? You can do that too. So I do that in WhiteSpark, do a quick audit there, and then I use Bright Local to build everything. Sorry, WhiteSpark. But again, I just did 30 total. Oh, and that also got me into the major data aggregators, but I doubt that hit in 30 days or in any amount of time. They might not even hit yet. I did a round of branded Web 2.0s. This is one of the first things I do in any SEO project, is that I want to own the brand name across as many high DA properties as I can get. So we're talking about WordPress.com, Tumblr, those types of things. And then I just use them as citations. So all I'm doing is I'm putting a business description, the address, a phone number, hours that you're open, and a link back to the target page that we're talking about. These got spammed to death by somebody, so I ended up taking them down. But this is one of the first things that I do. And then, here's a top 10 list, by the way, if you want. These are the top 10 by strength Web 2.0s currently, as of about a month ago. Gnome.com is a good tool to find them. It's free. You put in your brand name, and it actually tells you available properties. They do a service for like $260, but you can get a VA to do it for 20 or 30 probably. I then put a little velocity through, and I'm lazy, so I use drip feed links. I use them a lot in testing environment. I probably never use them in real life. I think I did 500 links for 10 days, but I had 55 properties at this point. So I had 20 Web 2.0s, I had the 30 citations, and I had the 5 silo posts that I did. So I have 55 properties, so I spread it across that with anchor text. And really, I'm just trying to get things indexed. Is really all the reason that I did it. I wasn't doing it for anything other than trying to get those indexed to maybe get a little bit of ping. If you really want to do, right now this is a fun tool, SEO Autopilot. If you want to automate something, I like that one. I would be very cautious using that, but hey, it worked. But I show my clients what I do. I'm completely transparent. I would feel uncomfortable showing them these links, but there's stuff in here you can do that I think is pretty good. You also need to give it time. I don't know how many times people call me up and like, hey, I launched a page 2 days ago and I'm not ranking. And it's like, all right. Yeah. So this looks more happy than it was. So this is all around 100, ranking 100, but every other day would like bounce out of the SERPs entirely. So I'd be at like 70, and then I'd be gone, and then I'd be at 130, and then gone again. So it was really just kind of bouncing all up and down, and then it just completely pinged and hit about 6 weeks. I didn't do anything to the site after week 3 too. So I didn't do any other SEO, set it up, let it go, and let it run, and that was that. The guy who technically won the competition, his name's Igor, he's a really nice guy, but he got pretty upset, I think. And he had started like SEOing his site again to get on page 1. A lot of people do it in the competition we're doing, but I haven't touched the site, I haven't done anything to the site since week 3. So the mystics then got really upset at me and said, well, the reason that you're doing so well is because of the competition and all the people are doing the search and then they're clicking on your site and they're giving you all these user metrics. These are my user metrics. Average pages are 2, time on site is $1.51, and the bounce rate is 66%. Those are not earth-shattering user metrics. You know, when people talk about you got to get good user metrics and good this and good that, and I don't think so. I don't think it really does much for anything. Then the mystic said that it's CTR. That's it. You know, people are doing the search and then they're clicking on your CTR has to be like 80%. My CTR is 7% sitting in the number 1 spot. 7.31. That's pretty terrible, actually, for the number 1 spot. You'd expect something more in like the high 20s, right? So my best CTR is rhinoplasty plano TX at 10%. Plano rhinoplasty other way is only at 2%, sitting at the 1 or 2 spot. So CTR is not doing it either. All right, so the mystics all say, yeah, but this page won't last that long. So the competition page has been up since June. But if you saw my talk last year and what I was presenting on was motorcycle course Nova Scotia. I chose this phrase because these guys didn't hire me, so I thought, fuck them, I'll just use them as a case study and go around the world talking about them. But motorcycle course Nova Scotia, I put this on my agency site, so my agency site has nothing to do with motorcycles or Nova Scotia or courses. And here we are at number 4, and this was June of 2017, and this page is still up. And you can see it's Lorem Ipsum. Same thing. Google's algorithm is an algorithm. It's been an algorithm. It will continue to be an algorithm, and the idea is that you can beat it with math. So the same kind of thing. I figured out how many times I needed motorcycle course Nova Scotia exactly. I'm also sitting on page 2 for this related search, motorcycle training course Nova Scotia. Simply by having it one time on the page as an H2. All right, so you're going to do this conference, you're going to go home, and you're going to do nothing. And that's how a lot of conferences go. You're going to have all these great ideas. You're going to be fired up, you're going to implement and go, and you're going to get home, and you're going to do nothing. So I'd like to fight that. If you want to, a lot of you are using my tool or use Ted's tool, but if you want to use it, what I recommend doing, people ask me all the time, how can I get better at SEO? Just do what I did. Do a Lorem Ipsum page, or do a real page, but do it for a hobby. You know, do something low stakes, and then actually run through it. Run through the process of how you actually do SEO, and then write down that process. If you want to use my tool, aim for something like 70%. That's an arbitrary number, but it gives you a target. But anyone who's in this room, if you do this challenge, I'll do 30 minutes on the phone with you. So I'll answer any and all questions about what you're doing, what kind of SEO you're doing. And if you want some free credits, you can grab some free credits, and I'll give anybody in this room as many credits as they like. But the whole point is actually doing SEO. You know, a lot of people get into wishful thinking SEO. You know, I know some things. I might do them, but then they never actually do them. So what I would like to do is I'd like to empower you to actually do some SEO. Put up a page on anything, and then let's get that thing to rank, and let's see how we go. Okay? That's all I got. That's my email. I think half of the internet has it at this point, but feel free to email me anytime. Thank you so much. Oh wait, Q&A?
Yeah, Q&A and then the
Yeah, let's do some Q&A and then
repeat the question.
yeah, right. Keith.
Kyle, you were targeting an internal page. Did you even have a homepage?
The question was, I was targeting an internal page. Did I even have a homepage? Yes, I did. And I just put some Lorem Ipsum on it.
And then how deep was the overall site?
How deep was the overall site? So it had the homepage, that internal page, 5 silo posts, and I think I did a privacy page and a contact us page. So 10-ish pages total. Yes?
If you have a keyword like Invisalign, which is all over the country, heavy in the dental sites, and the content is similar, but you optimize it correctly for the local area, you're going to be penalized for having duplicate content.
The question is there a duplicate content penalty when you're doing something that's a national brand, so you have a lot of similar content, and is there a duplicate content penalty specifically in local SEO? I don't think so. I don't think there's any issue there. And also, what's kind of fun is some tests that we've done in SIA is that if your content in blocks is 51% unique, you get past Google's filter. So just 51% unique content gets you there. And then we did another thing where we just started switching out words. Every 24th word, if you switch it out, you get past Google's duplicate content filter. That is not a high bar to get past what Google wants to do. Yeah.
Just to encourage people to use your tool, when I got here yesterday, Ted and Kyle were sitting eating, and they had drunk enough that they let me sit down with them. And in 30 minutes sitting there with them, it paid for coming to a conference like this. I mean, the information from sitting and talking with them. So that 30-minute session is well worth your time to go through that competition for no other reason.
I'll repeat what he said because it was fantastic. He said, I'm really smart. But it's true. If anybody wants to sit down and talk SEO, I love SEO. You know, this is what I do, not because it's just a job, but I actually really love doing it. So if you want to talk SEO, I'm happy to talk SEO. Or even agency stuff or whatever you want to talk about.
How important are links to this process? I mean, you still have to have links, right?
Certainly. The question is how important are links to the process? Absolutely. I got lucky in this competition because on-page was clearly the bigger factor. I think on-page is going to do 60% of your heavy lifting anyway. You know, you can't rank a blank page with links. So you're going to have some content on there.
So theoretically, somebody with better links could overbatch you, and then you'd have to.
Sure. The question was, so theoretically, someone with better links could pass me, absolutely. And I think it just happened. I think if you do the search right now, I think I'm #1 in maps, and I think I'm #2, because Igor is still SEOing his page. So I think he just moved to #1. Yeah.
So we're in the legal niche, which is obviously gives some background and very competitive. One of the things you touched on was content silos and how you structure your pages.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like Lorem, Ipsum, and the stuff you guys have done in SIA, have you ever messed around with A/B testing or anything like that in terms of how you silo the pages and what kind of keyword relevancy you do, or is it just based on like the Google related searches?
The question is,
That was a lot.
I think the main question was, how do you come up with the content for your...
With the main target keyword for the content silos and supporting pages.
Yeah, so the question is, how do you come up with the main keyword or concepts for the silo contents? I think, from my perspective, you want 2 chances to rank for those terms. So I would like to use the related searches because I know I can win them by properly optimizing for that top level phrase. So I'm going to put it on my main phrase, but I'll often use that H2 as some supporting content as well, with the idea that I might have 2 chances to win that term.
I'm going to show you in my presentation how to do that. Your 3 supporting articles that link to the main page,
Yes.
did you use the same anchor text, or did you change that around?
The question was, did I use the same anchor text in the supporting articles? And in this situation, I actually had 5. The schematic said 3, but I used 5, and I used exact match anchors on those 5. Rhinoplasty plano. Yeah.
Did you build links to those supporting pages?
Did I build links to the supporting pages? I did. So I threw them in to drip feed links with all the citations and all the Web 2.0s just in one block, and I sent random links across the board to all of them. What I was trying to do, I did 500 links over 10 days, and I would imagine maybe only 20% of those indexed at best. But what I was trying to do is actually just get the pages indexed. I wanted my citations indexed, my Web 2.0s indexed, and then the silos indexed. Yes?
So the only links that you built to your target page were citations, the Web 2.0s, and the supporting articles?
That's correct. So the question is, the only links that I actually built to the target page were those citations and the Web 2.0s and the articles, and that's correct. I didn't do any other external linking directly to the target page. Yeah. Question is, can you get a copy of my Prezzo? Absolutely. My slides are open.
Oh, like
Email me.
And you get the recording stuff, so it's all.
I love local, and is this something, I mean, you and I talked a little bit about this, but is this a test that could turn into some benefit for another local plastic surgeon in Plano? Has anybody ever contacted you?
No, the question is like, has anybody contacted me? I know that about like taking over the site. I know that Igor tried to sell it, or tried to sell his to one of the doctors, and the doctor told him to get out of town. Like, so I don't know that they're not taking the joke as well. But as I mentioned before, though, my whole point, I actually don't want to sell it, because that's not the point of what I was doing. I'm not doing this for an economic benefit for this particular thing. And again, I'm also not doing it to give the finger to Google either. You know, it's really to prove the point about the math behind what SEO actually is, and really do it more as a case study for these environments.
What does your math say about that Google medic updates? It just took sites that were really good as far as content, but they had really shitty link profile because they scared everybody away since the first SEO stock. So people were scarred, I guess, so nobody would use the links.
The question is, what does the math say about the medic update that happened recently? Ted might be the right person to talk to about that, but I have a client that has 15 sites within the supplement space, like testosterone boosters, penis pills, vitamins, that kind of stuff. So it was a nice spread, and about half of them got hit and about half of them didn't. And the ones that got, or the ones that made it, you could actually see who owned the site. It was actually very easy to identify who was responsible for the content of this site, and not just an author tag, but actually like who owns this site. So there was a real address, there was a phone number you can contact for support, there was an emergency contact number, there were different departments on who you need to contact for different things, like if you need customer support, if you just want general information, if you want to partner with them for ad space. The sites that got through all had those things. You could easily see who owned that site and who was responsible for the content. The sites that got tagged, you couldn't do that because they were kind of more normal looking affiliate sites. That's what I think the medic update was targeting, was those affiliate sites, because Google wants to put a dentist up. It doesn't want a dental implant lead gen site. So the dental implant lead gen site often can't do a real address because they don't want to. They're not a real thing, right? So I think that's it. I would look at my sites that way. Good?
I think that's it. We're going to announce our contest.
Okay.
Keyword.